that written by Professor Emeritus Dr. Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman. And the first book review I also present about the crisis in Muslim mind, that also written by Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman as the first book, and this is the continuations of that book. And I saw this book is more specific than the first book that we reviewed in the past week. Yeah, this book, maybe I would like to introduce a bit about Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman. As Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman was born in Makkah, and he was had various positions throughout his career, including founding members of the Association Muslim Social Scientists, and he was also Secretary General of World Assembly of Muslim Youth, or aka WAMI, and he was also rectors of the International Islamic University in Malaysia. His background of education, he was graduated from Bachelor's in Commerce, Cairo University, and then Master's in Political Science and PhD in International Relations. His publications are really well known, and there are more than tens of publications that famous around Muslim scholars. One of the books is Christ and Muslim Mind, and also this is the book that I will review after this, inshallah. So, all right. Let's get to know about the content of the book. This book consists of 5 chapters. The first chapter is the Quranic Worldview and Human Culture. The second chapter is the principle embodied in the Quranic Worldview. The third chapter is the foundation, starting point, and inspirations for reform and construction. And the fourth chapter is about the Islamic worldview and humanitarian ethical concept. And last but not least, is about the IIIT's plan for the development of universities curricula. But throughout this presentation, I will I will not in depth by each chapter, but I come with my points throughout my readings. There are 6 points that I will elaborate further, inshallah. All right, let's go first to the main idea of this book. So before we get to know or go deeper into the book, what the book is all about, I think I already I do summary of the book into 5 big points, as the book identifies the core reason actually behind the Muslim world dramatic decline. When we talk about the crisis in Muslim mind at that time, the main factors that Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman in the book really concerned about the loss of identity in the Muslim world. But in this book, he concerned about the loss of Quranic worldview. So according to the Professor Abdulhamid, any genuine revival of Muslim civilization must begin by reinstating a worldview that is firmly rooted in the 3 core elements. If we take the first book, the first one is about monotheism or monotheistic or tauhid, and the second one ethical, and last but not least is about a sense of divine purpose. When we talk about the tauhid in language, tauhid is the meaning of the tauhid is to unite or to make something one, and this tauhid can only be achieved by rejections and affirmation, which are 2 pillars of the word of tauhid. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha meaning that the rejection, and illallah affirmation. So there is no God truly worship but Allah. So according to the, if we throw back to the tauhid lessons about the terminology of tauhid, it is to single out Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. We believe in absolute oneness and the uniqueness of God, with what is specific to Him or lordship. divinity, or what we call in Tauhid Uluhiyah, and names and attributes, asma wa sifat. So there's a question: is it enough to declare the word shahada, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna muhammadar rasulullah, by our tongue? Is it enough to become a true Muslim, a true mu'min? So the answer is it's not. It's not really a complete, or the what we call a true Muslim. As the Prophet Muhammad SAW said in one of hadith, to become a true mu'min, not only to become Muslim. Yes, it is true. To become a Muslim, the first word that we must utter by our tongue is kalimatul shahada. But to become the true mu'min, and next level is to become muhsin, there is a step for that. So Prophet Muhammad SAW said, to become the believers or mu'min, it's not only to become Muslim. Muslim is like the convert people from maybe other religion to the Islam, we call us the Muslim. But the next level after the Muslim is to become mu'min, and the highest one is to become muhsin. So the mu'min, we should first acknowledge by our heart, and the second one, we express with our tongue. And then the last point, and this is the what we call the measures of actions, is we act upon the limbs. As in the early days of Islam, the companions, the Sahaba radiallahu anhu ardu'an, internalized the Quranic message with great sincerity and also the passion. And throughout the history, their commitment to the truth, to the justice, and also the goodness make them unable to build a dynamic civilization. But over the time, let's say in our current era, the Muslim gradually lost their spiritual and also the intellectual clarity. And as Professor Abdulhamid Sulayman said, one of the major critical, the declining of the Muslim issues is the loss of Quranic worldview. The Quranic worldview meaning here, does the Muslim not really concerned about the Quran? No. The Muslim in this current era really concerned about the Quran. They memorize the Quran. Even the baby, I mean the boy 9 years old, 5 years old, already complete the Quran, the whole Quran. But on the other hand, is it matter to memorize the Quran without knowing the meaning that consists in the book, in the Quran? If we read the what we call the history of Sahaba radiallahu anhum wa radu'an, do they really memorize the whole Quran al Sahaba? The fact that that I found, and also if you go to the Sirah Nabawiyah and Sirah Sahaba, not all the Sahaba Hafizul Quran. We might find I could say many Sahaba, till the end of his life, he only memorized suratain, or some of the Quran, not the whole Quran. As narrated by Abdullah bin Umar, the son of Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, the companions of Prophet Muhammad the best of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, which is his generation, Sahaba, in the beginning of this ummah, what we call the marhalat ta'sis, they would not memorize anything in the Quran except a surah and or something like that. But yet Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala give them the ability to act upon the Quran. This is the barakah. However, the last of this nation, which is our era, this ummah given by Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala the ability to memorize the Quran, but they or us, we are unable to apply or to act upon the Quran. What the Quran said, what we call Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala revealed to Prophet Muhammad, it's not all the what we call the al-hukam, the law, can be applied in our daily life. It can be, but really had to be applied in our era. And also, there is narrations by Sayyid Tabi'in, Imam Al-Hasan Al-Basri. He said that this Quran recited by the slave and also the children who had no knowledge for its interpretation, and they did not approach the matter from its beginning. As Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, Kitabun anzalnahu ilaikum mubarakun liyadabbaru. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, this is the blessed book which we have sent down to you, so that they might ponder its verses. So the pondering here, or tadabbur, is not only by memorizing and at the end neglecting the law or the boundaries inside the Quran. To the point that we might find a person say that I have read the entire Quran. I already memorized the entire Quran from the Al-Fatihah to the An-Nas. And here he said again, but I have not omitted a single letter from it. But wallahi, he has omitted the entire Quran. Why I said so? We might not find any ayah in his character, in his daily life, and in his action. And even he might say, I recite the Quran in one breath. But wallahi, these are not the reciters or the scholars. Yeah, may Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala doesn't increase this kind of people among us. And today, we often admire again the achievement of our past, what we call the golden age. The golden age is related to the Prophet Muhammad SAW said, Khairul Quruni Qarni, summa alladhi yalunahu, summa alladhi yalunahu. The best generation is my generation, and then the after, which are Tabi'in and Tabi'in. And he also emphasized at the first prologue of this book about the revival of Islam identity through this worldview is not just important. It's not just important. It is absolutely necessary for meaningful reform in our modern era. And at the first chapters of the book about the Quranic worldview and culture, Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman explained that every culture is shaped by its underlying worldview. And the worldview here is not just a theory, but it is a framework that determines how people think and how people act and build their institution. If it is clear, positive, and also realistic, it can drive dynamic and also the moral action. So the Quranic worldview that we want to discuss here offer such a foundation to build the nation, to revive the golden age. It is not only the spiritual book that we recite to revive our soul or to contemplate what happened in our life, but the Quran also the scientific, ethical, and also the socially conscious. The Quran also guide the early Muslim to build the balance, what they call civilization, where the faith, reason work together. And however, in today's era, I mean in our time, many Muslims are no longer guided by the worldview. I mean the Quranic worldview. Instead, there is a widespread passivity, confusion, and also the tendency to what we call to imitate the Western habits, to imitate the Western life, without truly understanding or reforming our own tradition, the tradition that inherited from Prophet Muhammad SAW to his Sahabah, to Tabi'in, our life. Some of the youth generation today more proud to imitate the Western culture than the Muslim, to imitate what we call the people that we can say that is not part of the Muslim societies. And in this book also, this chapter, Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman also stressed about the meaningful reform must begin by restoring this Quranic perspective, especially in education, culture, and also intellectual life. Only then Muslim can regain a sense of purpose and direction. And the next point that I would like to share with you about the core principle of the Quranic worldview. Here, actually, there are many, but I put maybe the important one. And some of the point from my perspective is quite connected to each another. The first and foremost is about Tawhid or monotheism. This is not just theological claim, but the moral and also the philosophical foundation of human dignity, unity, and also the purpose. As the Quran also emphasizes about the Khilafah or stewardship. Humans are not owners of this world, but we are the trustees of the earth. We are meant to act with responsibility in managing resources, societies, and also the relationship. As Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has subjected this alam, whether it is on the sky or on the earth, to us as a human. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ سَخَّرْنَا الْجِبَالَ, similar with that. And Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala also, who made the sun a shining and also the moon a radiance, and determined for its phase, so that we might know the numbers of the years. And the next principle is about the justice or adl. Without the justice, all this principle will collapse, because justice must govern every level of human interaction, social, economics, spiritual, and also the political. And the next is about the freedom and responsibility. But that freedom comes again with the moral accountability. And the fifth principle is about the Quranic model, about the shura, or consultation, or mutual consultation between two parties, or more than that. And this shura is a method of governance that implemented by Sahabah radhiyallahu anhu warḍan, as it is to prevent the tyranny or the dictatorship, and also promote shared responsibility. And last but not least, Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman in this book strongly argue that is no real conflict between revelations and reason, as both are gift from the God. As the revelation guide us, and reason help us to understand and apply those guidelines in the real world. And the next point is about the reforming the Muslim mind through the education. Okay, once you read this book, from the first chapter, you will notice that Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman placed a major focus on the role of education in reviving the Muslim Ummah. Since the introduction of this book, he mentioned about his mission and visions during his tenure in IIM as the director. He argued that much of the decline in Islamic world or the Islamic thought can be traced to outdated education system. The system that sometimes emphasized the memorization or the personal pity and ritual, but neglect the critical thinking, ethics, and also the public responsibility. So the true reforms, he said in his book, must begin at the roots with curriculum development, about the parenting, about the training of the teachers who understand the Quranic worldview. And education should not just prepare students for exam, and also should not prepare students for getting job, but also should nurture their ethical awareness, their sense of purpose, and also the capacity of reasoning. Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman also calls for the development of Islamic social sciences, the discipline that grounded in Islamic values, but using using the modern scientific research method. And this means that this means Islamic social sciences not copying the West blindly, but also not rejecting the science. And the reform in education is the first step to producing a generation that is intellectually strong and also spiritually aware and capable of leading positive change in society. Next point that I would like to share is about the complementary family structure and also social ethics. So in this part of the book, deal with one of the most sensitive yet crucial areas to reform, about the role of men and women and the structure of the family. Abdulhamid Sulayman, in his book, reject the Western feminist idea that men and women are exactly the same. Instead, he promotes for a complementary model where both male and female are equal in dignity, but different in design and responsibility. As Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said in the surah, if I'm not mistaken, Surah Nisa, Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'alan nisa. And another ayah that also about loan, where one shahada, what we call, the shahada, what the shahada, the evidence, I forgot that then. Anyway, there is an ayah in the Surah Al-Baqarah, when someone take a loan, should come with a person that witness for that loan. One man equal to women. But yeah, from that and also there are many ayah about the difference between men and women. But Professor Abdulhamid Sulayman, the equality that he proposes is about dignity, but differ in design and also the responsibility. As according to the Quranic worldview, the family is the foundation of healthy civilization. If we don't reform our families and social structure in line with divine guidance, broader society reform, that will remain impossible. He also, in this book, criticized how the modern materialist culture, especially in the West, have disrupted natural gender roles, leading to family breakdown and also the social confusion. In contrast, if we ponder in the ayah Qur'aniyah, Al-Quran promote the values like mawaddah, rahmah, ihsan, and also ma'ruf in the family life. And another point is about the Quranic vision of a global community. One of the most insightful comparison in this book that I read is about globalism and also globalization. As both terms, according to Professor Abdulhamid Sulayman, are not equal. Professor Abdulhamid Sulayman explained that the Quran promotes a global worldview based on unity in diversity, justice, and also mutual cooperation. This is what he called in the book globalism. It also envisions a world where different people, culture, and also the nation work together in harmony without losing their identity. On the other hand, talking about the globalization, as we see it today, is driven by materialism and the domination that promotes consumerism and weakens local cultures and also serve the interests of powerful elites. But Islam, to the Quran worldview, present a moral and also the inclusive alternative, where one spiritual value guide international relation, and every nation is seen as a partner in building a just and also a peaceful global community. So he concludes in this chapter of book, the idea that Muslims must revive their role as the contributors to the global ethics, not just as followers of Western system. And next point that I would like to share is about reclaim intellectual leadership. This is also a really important chapter, as Professor Abdulhamid Abdul Sulayman discussed the often misunderstood concept of the Islamization of knowledge. He criticized the current state of Islamic scholarship, which is often trapped in outdated traditions, rigid literalism, and disconnection from real-world challenges. According to Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulaiman, Islamization of knowledge doesn't mean that rejecting science or the modern thought. Instead, it means reclaiming our intellectual leadership by combining Quranic principle with scientific methods. He also emphasized that the need to build Islamic social sciences, as I explained the previous slide, and also the discipline that deal with the human behavior, economics, politics, and education from a Quranic perspective. So this requires a new curriculum or new curricula, a new institutions, and a generation of scholars who are spiritually grounded, intellectually free, and also the scientifically capable. And the goal of this is to create a comprehensive values-based education system that prepare Muslims not only to live as a faithful individuals, but also to contribute meaningfully to the development of modern civilization. And this is the famous word that I really admire with. The rebirth of Islam identity through this Quranic worldview is the key requirement of our times and the prerequisite for any future healthy and a viable development of the Ummah. Maybe that's all for me. Thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you so much, my dear brother Izzudin. A very nice, very comprehensive summary or review of the book. We will open up for our today to ask and brother and that. Brother Izzudin, after you read these two books, Crisis and Sulayman, how these books change or have changed your ideas, your perception, or your view about your studies, about your life?
Yeah.
How have the book impacted your life?
Yeah. So it's like a reflections from my reading of these two books, the big two books for me. As the book also, to be honest, really hard to understand. And I also use actually not really the main book, but the brief-in book, the simple book to try to understand and to try to understand what Professor Abdulhamid want to say, want to convey about his attention to the Islamic world. The first thing that I what we call reflect from this book, the decline of the Muslim world is not as simply as we thought. Or maybe is it because of the politics? I think it's not as simple as because of the politics and also the economics. But when we go further and when we contemplate ponder further, it's something deeper than that. It starts from the foundations of the issues, which is the loss of Quranic vision. Where the Quran is the what we call the foundations of the issues around the world right now. I remember this one, the hadith that Rasulullah SAW said, that really close and also really answer what we call the problem that's in this book. Rasulullah SAW said, "Taraktu fikum amroini lan tadillu bihima abadan." Al-Quran was Sunnah. Rasulullah said, I left two things. If you grab it, strongly grab it, and also follow from that two things, you will not lose the way. You will not lose your identity. They are the Quran, also the Sunnah. And also, this book remind me about the true reform must start from our children and our institution from our close relative. It is also related to the first what we call first amr, first instruction from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The first dakwah, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala said to His Prophet, "Wa andir ashiratakal akrabin," and give what we call nasiha, and remind your close relative, not to your friend, not to your big boss, to your president, but to your close relative, your mother, sisters, fathers, and so on you. Once you can solve that one, you can solve the surrounding.
Jaya, dan ini, brother, ini input atau anyone? Okay, last question. It's the only chance we have. After this, he will become a big man in Aceh. We have to back this time. Ya, number.
Yeah, 1986.
There's no not really big changes, but more like alignment or like additional. But this is already the practice movement is a year. When he's actually becoming rector, actually done this, because there is certain thing that you need to first that you need to after he becomes. So that I think the end chapter is very important for preparing also in end. What has to learn as rector and what can we do as still continuing the preparing and mission.
Betul? Any addition? Or we go for lunch? Kalau tak ada, we can have our lunch. So say a few words. Final word for Izzudin before we finish this term with us.
Okay, final word.
No,
Okay.
that's
You want to say a few words?
And then we will
Saya akhir. Closing word. Inshallah. Inshallah.
last word from you. Before we close.
First of all, I'm really thankful for this opportunity to explore more about Islamization of knowledge. Even though my majors in communication is not really touch what we call really in depth about the Islamization of knowledge, I could say most of the lesson that I learned is tend to learn the Western concept, but by this presentations, the assignment to present what Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulayman wants to convey about his concern, I come to realize that it is really important for especially the young generation to take actions towards the conditions of this world, especially in the Muslim world. And we also must realize that the Quran is not only the spiritual book, it's the guide for our lives. As the young generation, the young scholars, we can refer to the Quran as the scientific, about economics, about politics, and about everything in our life. So yeah, I wish and I hope the young generations, the change maker to the new golden age, we can take this message forward and apply in our daily life, in our communities, and also the future current.
Thank you so much, our dear brother Dean. On behalf of our youth, wish you success, your academic life, your professional life. If you get married, please send us invitation. We will come, inshallah.
We will do strategic planning.
We will go to Medan and Rocks Mali. Big one in the middle, is it?
In the middle.
Yes. Thank you so much. We close our session with tasbih para surah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.